Looks like it's coming through. Waiting to check. Looks like it should be rolling. And we are live on both YouTube and Twitch. So welcome everyone to the Foolish Tech Show. It is a bright and early Monday morning. We are here to provide you support and answer any questions about our products and services mainly. But if you have any of those, feel free to jump over to foolishtechshow.com and join our IRC chat. We have a couple ways you can join from there, and we'll be more than happy to interrupt whatever we're talking about to focus on our products instead. Otherwise, we're going to fill the time with random things, and today I think we're going to fill it with what we've been doing for the past couple of weeks is focusing on a single topic. And Michael's done some research on the updated, what is it called, QuickCreds or?
Yeah, it's called QuickCreds. I'll get you guys some links and we can look at it together. I'd also like to get feedback. Let's see, is anybody in our chat? I didn't have our chat.
Got Masonry and Shook, but usually it's kind of quiet on Mondays. So
yeah. All right. Well, let me open up a second chat window here. One moment.
well, while you do that, I figured out something to do with my USB killer.
Oh, okay. Other than kill things, or is this?
Yeah, I do have a Dell Rambus system that I'm going to try killing because it's just been sitting there and it's a Rambus, so it's not really good for anything anymore. It used to be my internet gateway, but I just felt it was drawing so much more power than needed be. So I'm probably going to end up killing that, and then I'm also going to do the battery test, and I just have to wait on a USB extension cord to come in for.
Well, that sounds a lot more exciting than a failed hash recovery, but
But what I'm going to do with it that's going to be so exciting, and what just came to me over the weekend was I think I'm just going to attach it to my keyring. And then that way, if I ever lose my keys or if someone ever steals my keys, they're going to plug that in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at least know I will have killed whoever stole my keys computer. Because they're gonna find my keys. They're gonna be like, "Oh, a USB drive. Let's plug this in," and bam. So I think that's probably it's gonna be like my post theft deterrent or something like that. I guess it's gonna be. But I thought that was a pretty good idea.
Yeah, so you just basically hope that somebody plugs it in. I mean, we talked about this, and there's been a couple of occurrences of people dropping flash drives on campuses and seeing what happens, sometimes maliciously, sometimes just for research. But it was shown that virtually everyone plugged them in.
I mean, if I found a USB drive, I'd probably plug it in myself. Except now that I know about the USB killer, I definitely won't do it on a system I care about. And previously, I would have done it on an air-gapped computer anyway, but yeah. So.
Okay. Well, getting back to the credentials things, I was gonna talk about a little bit. So I posted a link up there to a forum I was looking at. But interestingly, I want to note that there is some mitigations for this type of attack, and there are ways to prevent the automatic installation of the driver for the LAN Turtle or other USB Ethernet, quote unquote, trusted Ethernet adapter. And that could mitigate this in a corporate environment. That's not going to help it out probably for a consumer. They're probably not going to want to turn off the automatic driver installation and all that good stuff. So, and it's not about the driver being signed or not signed or anything along those lines. It's not that. These are these are these are regular drivers that are can work correctly under normal circumstances. It's just they're being the UPnP automatic installation, not UMPnP. I'm sorry, the Um, plug and play, regular plug and play, automatic installation of those drivers is what kind of makes all this happen. So that's an interesting note. I also want to, let's see here. I
Now
want to go over the original article.
you posted the forum post for that. Did you also check out the video that Hack5 did?
No. What?
So Hack5 episode 2104, they did a snagging creds from locked machines with the LAN Turtle. I'm not
That
sure
was
if
with the responder, though, wasn't it?
that's what I was about to say. I'm not sure if that was post the QuickCreds module or
What was the
pre
date
that.
on that video? Do you know the date on it?
It is published September 21st. They sometimes pre-record things though, so it could have been anytime.
Yeah. So that module was posted in late September. It's possible, but I thought that, let me see here. When was that posted? I'll get you there. It looks like might have been posted around the 15th. So it could have. I didn't find any references to that video though when I was looking into it.
I want to say that video was probably for the just plain responder one, which goes off the original Mubix article. Do you have that? Yep, the Room 362. Yeah. I want to say that's what it's going off of. I haven't watched that episode myself either, so I'm not positive, but I just wanted to throw that video is out there if you want to check that out, because they do a far more better job of showing things off than we do here. But we like to play around and see what happens, so it's pretty cool to see those kind of things. And yeah, I think either way, it should be interesting to talk about and see what you found from their QuickCreds.
Okay, so I'm doing the show, so my screen capture. Let me see what I can make happen with that. So I guess if I do the share screen from here.
Well,
you have another scene set up.
I have to do another scene. Yeah.
Yeah, if you have the scene set up, that would be the way you would want to do it.
And add screen capture.
You can still share your screen after you switch to that scene so that we can see what you're doing without having to watch the scene. But if that's too much for you, don't worry about it.
Oh, I don't even know if this is gonna be. Oh my gosh. Hold on.
Alright, I'm looking at the stream right now. We got just a black screen, so.
Oh yeah, I know. No, this is not going well. So how do I capture this screen?
If you click on a different scene, then you just set up another source, and select what you want to share.
We did see a desktop there for briefly. It was very tiny.
All right, there is. I guess you can see that. You should be able to.
Yep, we can see that.
All right. So what I did, I was very frustrated in not being able to get this to work, and I thought that maybe it was maybe it was just I put it in a state. I've been using it for a while, so I wanted to reload it fresh. So interestingly, LAN Turtle, to do that, you have to take off the sticker on the back. I'm sure you've done this before, Brantley. But you take off the sticker from the back. There's 2 screws in it. You unscrew those, and there's a little reset button. You hold that in for 3 seconds while you plug it in. That does the factory reset, and it'll allow you to then assign 1.2 address to the interface on the LAN Turtle, and then you can browse to 1.1 at that point, and that's a firmware upload page, and you can then download or upload rather a firmware that you've hopefully previously downloaded from their site to get it back up and running. So I did that, and I reinstalled the modules, and here's...
How'd your sticker fare?
Not too well. How'd yours?
I believe I did okay on it. I have two of the LAN turtles, so I think the first one I kind of like messed it up so that like the corner is peeled off a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But then the second one I haven't messed it up, and then the second one I actually got an extra one of the stickers. But on their forums they do have some places where they've mentioned where you can go out and purchase like a whole sheet of those.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna
It's
look
just
into
something
that.
you would custom order if you wanted a bunch of those stickers to be able to do it over and over again. So
Well, I'll certainly look into that, but the sticker was very problematic for me. They on mine at least, they almost too perfectly matched the size of the sticker to the 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 placeholder for it, and what that meant was that the edges were so tight up against it I couldn't even get a fingernail in. I had to get a extremely tiny flathead screwdriver and pick up one of the edges there, finally enough for me to actually get my nail under and then raise it up. Putting it back on, though, it looks like crap now. So I'm a little bit disappointed. At any rate, so my configuration for this the configuration for this is extremely straightforward. But I want to clarify all the little details and gotchas that I went through, and again, the failure of this test ultimately is not much support over this, but I know it works, and I feel like a third try on this, maybe in a month or two, might get some more progress. But at any rate,
well, I'd also like to point out that Seb is working on an updated version of the firmware for the LAN Turtle.
it's been a year.
Long time coming, and he's gotten the Wi-Fi Pineapple firmware, which is his main priority, kind of set and stable. He said he's about to update it with a new big feature, so maybe we'll talk about that next Monday when it hopefully should be released, but always have to give Seb time because he puts in excellent work. But he did make a post on the forum that he's going to start working on an updated version for the LAN Turtle, and that will include an upgrade to the OpenWRT and the packages and things like that. So should see some new and interesting things coming, and it's definitely not a dead product. So that's definitely a good thing to hear, I feel.
It's not, but I did get I was a little bit disappointed in my frequent visits to them, and seemingly no progress since the V2 was put out, and that was, well, like a year ago or something like that, for the last firmware, the Turtle Shell 2, basically. But at any rate, the modules are updated, and that's where the vast amount of work gets done with the LAN Turtle, and that's really good. And there's a whole big community around that. I don't ever think this device is really gonna, drop in popularity, and it's such a critical device, I think, for the Hack 5 group. They have to continue with it. So.
Well, and I think it's important to mention too that this isn't just a made for specific device. It's like the Wi-Fi Pineapple. It's a full embedded Linux OpenWRT system that has both a USB to Ethernet and a actual Ethernet adapter, and you only actually need the actual Ethernet adapter connected to the internet to make it work, and you can pretty much configure it however you want to. It's more about what you want it to do, and it's open system. So I think that's what I would like to focus on after you show us some of the things, is to actually look into some of the guts, and maybe we can figure out why it's not working for you or see what it's supposed to be doing. So
Okay. All right. Well, good point though. you could implement this device otherwise. It doesn't have to be the LAN Turtle. It doesn't have to be the Armory, USB Armory, for instance. It doesn't have to be any of those devices, but those devices make it very easy and kind of bring all the core pieces together, like he was talking about the networking interface that you need, and processor, flash storage, all that good stuff that goes along with it. So at any rate, QuickCreds is capitalized, interesting, unlike all the other modules that are up here.
Gosh, that bugs me so much too.
I know, and as a result of that, it looks like the list sorts it that way too. It puts
It does.
capitalized
They have
first.
It's sorted like Linux would sort things, and I've even brought this up, and I was like, man, it is so aggravating on the Wi-Fi Pineapple to have things that are capitalized and then not capitalized, and have basically two separate lists under modules when I go look there. And I can go in and edit it, obviously. I can go in and change each one of the folders to a lowercase letter or an uppercase letter, whichever way I want it to be. It's just if they update it, it's going to slam it right back and bugs the...
Well, it did me too, so I think you'll be pleased to know that you're not the only one who's annoyed with that. So we've got QuickCreds there at the top, and then we've got Responder down here. I had initially just installed those with nothing else, but I was concerned that possibly it had dependencies on the other on other modules that I wasn't aware of. I'm a little unclear on whether or not you actually need Responder separately from QuickCreds, because I do know that during the installation of QuickCreds, it will basically it will download that as a dependency and apparently set it up. Now, I thought that was great, but I never did get it to work. And so what I'll do, maybe we'll just we'll delete these modules and we'll start from scratch here. That would be good, actually.
Okay.
So if you haven't done anything before with the modules in the LAN Turtle, you go to the Module Manager, and it looks like any other module. You might be tempted to hit Enable or Start, but really all that's you need to do with it is hit Configure, and then this will get you a screen where you can basically browse, which is this directory for modules. If you don't have them, you can delete modules and you can update modules. I've never seen, while the update module always seems to indicate to you that it is updating modules or has updated modules, I've never actually seen that process work in my testing. And it's possible, there was just no module updates ever when I did it. Have you seen that work, Brantley?
The updating modules?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I just haven't had a situation where that worked, and I was concerned whether or not when I was previously hitting update on the older QuickCreds, because QuickCreds got updated several times.
Yeah, and that too is that you have to remember that majority of these modules are going to be community donated and maintained. So if the person who wrote it doesn't make any updates to it, there's not going to be any updates for it. But and again, when they put something out, they do some fairly well testing, and usually it doesn't need too many updates past that because it just does what it's supposed to do. So we'll show off some other features of the verifying if it got updated or not too later.
Sure. The LAN Turtle, so when you go to the directory, you do have to be connected to the internet for this to work. And on the LAN Turtle, you have to actually plug in the cable, an Ethernet cable, for that to happen. It won't pull it from the computer side USB interface. So we'll see a list of modules here, and I'm just going to go ahead and select, where is it? QuickCreds. And interestingly enough, on this list, it's sorted correctly, which totally blows my mind why they're able to do it here and not otherwise. So we've got the module installed. See it here. The only thing you should have to do is hit Configure. and it tells us where it's going to be put in our creds. It's going to store it in root loot. Root loot. It's kind of funny. Kind of fun to say.
The small things entertain Michael.
And yeah, it should be enabled to run at startup, but that should be the extent of it. Now, problem. So, well, I do have a loot folder, and you'll see tons of numbered folders. So every time the LAN Turtle boots up, it will create one of these folders and start an attack. And what you'll see in the responder, it uses responder. The QuickCreds uses responder for the poisoning to make these attacks work. It'll say starting attack. I've never got it to complete an attack though. We don't see anything in there. So on and so forth. My most recent attempt, yeah, nothing. I know that they used to stick responder logs in this temp folder, but I'm not seeing them there either.
Well, that's what the responder thing does. I believe it, but it says, I'm looking at the source of the module, it says it should copy the responder logs to the root loot and then number directory for that numbered boot.
Yeah. So mine have been blank though. At one point during my testing, I did get those to show up. I never got a hash file to show up, but I did get 3 log files to show up in those folders. But that didn't persist. After a period of time, it stopped doing that too, and I'm sure it was something that I did, but I can't even remember what that was at this point. So if we look, I'm still thinking that it's dependent upon having responder run at startup, right? So I was doing, I put this back in. This was basically the line that, if you look from the original responder form, that's the command that's supposed to make that work. But mine isn't for whatever reason. Let me see here what make sure this line is right.
Now, you did that either way, or you did that after you couldn't get it to work?
So I wanted to start off from scratch, and so I didn't want to have anything previously that had impact it. So yeah, this was I took this was out of it originally, and then I put it in.
Okay. Do you want to look at the code for it? Because I think that will tell you that you don't need that, and maybe it will help in the future. But since you're already at the command line, let's go ahead and look there. So you're under etc. Go into.
Well, you said I don't need this, so let me delete these, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe I'm reading it wrong too, but I see that in the code. So.
Okay, so what did you want me? You said go into etc.
You're in etc. So go into the turtle.
Mm-hmm.
And then you should have modules.
Okay, I saw responder, but modules. Okay.
And then
Creds.
Yep.
Oh, that's not a folder.
No, just nano QuickCreds.
Yeah. So
now there, the first part I want to point out is you got your version number there, so you can easily tell that. And I believe that should show up on the actual module itself if you're looking at it in the configuration, I believe, because that's where the description would show up as well. And then you can see it pulls from /temp QuickCreds.form. I believe that's how it kicks off the configuration. Oh, excuse me, maybe? Not sure, but if you scroll down, you got a couple functions in there. We got the function for configure, which that's where you can basically see it going through and downloading all of the modules such as Git, Python, SQL, or SQLite 3.
I skipped configure. Where's configure?
It's the first function.
Oh, it's before start. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So in there you can see that it has the installs Git, installs Python SQLite 3, screen.
Mm-hmm. That's all the stuff basically that was the responder and responder dependencies is what this looks like to me. And
Yep.
you know, of course, it's notifying you as well. But
it does clone responder in there, so you shouldn't even need that module at all.
Mm-hmm.
Then it creates that loot directory and creates the first responder log, and then it says everything's configured. So then we go to the start function, which is the one right after that. And then it does the on-off, or stops the on-off blinking for DHCP, which is the
now you can't see it.
way.
Now you can't see it, but it is. By the way, so what happens is you get the normal boot up where the LAN interface seemingly comes up, it blinks for a little bit, and then goes back down. That's just basically the LAN Turtle starting up. At that point, then mine goes into the quick blinking, which is basically the starting of the attack, and that's when it does the echo starting attack to the responder.log, right there, that line that you can see on the screen. And then it basically, I don't get any further after that, as far as the lights are concerned.
Now, what's curious to me is that it has all these echoes to start off there, where it does QuickCreds started and tells you what it's doing, and press Control-C to return. So I'm assuming you can start this attack manually at any time.
You can.
Do you just do
start.
QuickCreds space start?
I mean, I didn't do it.
In the configuration, you can just start it, and that's where. Okay.
And every time I start it there, it creates a new log folder, and you know, and all this happens, or supposed to happen. So anyway,
but if you're looking in that under starting attack, and then it creates the numbered loot directory and Symlinks responder logs from it, which is what you were probably seeing with the log folders being created. Then you can see it does the stop DNS mask, right?
Yeah, stop DNS mask. Yep, got it right there on the screen.
So it does that part, and then I believe the next line is also the second line that you would have put in the RC local.
Exactly. So all that's happening. Yeah, that line looks exactly the same as what I was doing.
Yep. And then it does the blinking for letting you know when it's found things there.
Yeah, so.
And since this is under start and you have it enabled on boot, it should automatically start up on boot. When I just plugged mine in, I noticed mine didn't pull a DHCP address automatically. Was yours pulling a DHCP address automatically?
Yeah, let me just confirm. Hold on.
Because to actually access mine, I had to set a manual one, and if it doesn't get a DHCP address, then this definitely will not work.
Yeah, no, I got it. It is, but it's of course, you know, it gets a X.1 or whatever. No, I'm sorry. It gets oh, it's the 170. No,
It should get an address of 172.16.84. something.
Yeah, it's Yeah, it is. It is. It is.
Okay, so it has to get that for this to automatically work.
Okay. Well, that's
Possibly, maybe there's a timing issue there or
yeah.
something to that effect that
It's
may make it not work on certain systems.
okay. Well, speaking of timing, and I've also read about these. If you look in the forum, a lot of people with this inconsistency. It seems like sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I believe I did. At one point, and I had an NTLM file, uh, with the hash in it. And it was from my machine, and I could never, from my regular, my work machine. I was again trying to do these tests on a few laptops, and I never got it to work on the laptops. I also heard something about somebody got it when they were logged in, but not on the lock screen. And then another report of people who were only able to say the credentials if they plugged in the cable to the LAN Turtle. Now that sounds like they didn't have that responder configured to capture the right interface. You know, that part of it, about being on the lock screen and not being on the lock screen is another interesting thing. Okay, also in the brief period of time when I had it working, there's another interesting thing that this QuickCreds seems to do. It
Hmm.
seems to intercept other types of logins, like it'll give you plain text FTP if it sees one transpire.
Hmm.
So
I
in the
believe that's what responder would do in general. So,
Okay. Okay. I wasn't aware of those additional things. So, for instance, if responders on the machine, it'll poison attacks and it'll basically be able to capture creds from FTP logins, from website logins, from share logins. Not website logins. No, what am I talking about?
well,
Share logins.
if it was clear text website logins, which majority of them are not anymore, so.
Okay. But a whole bunch of things, and so this is maybe a sort of attack you also don't want to just push in, you don't want to connect the LAN turtle, let's say, and leave it there till the light turns off and then pull it out. That the ability for it to capture that would seem like you would maybe want to leave it for a day or a week attached to a machine that you wanted to capture creds from, and then come back and pull it off later. That's a little bit more like traditional LAN turtle usage, where you would kind of leave it in the environment you intend to attack.
Yeah.
Um,
For those situations, though, it's like either you have to replace their setup, which sometimes you may have to know the environment that you're targeting to be able to give IP addresses and MAC addresses correctly and various things of that nature. But yeah, I feel like leaving responder on will, and in a system, would definitely end up grabbing more stuff. But you also have to think that that gives it more of a chance to be noted
Noticed. Hmm.
and picked up by the user and said, hey, what is this? Because if you have a network cable plugged into it, they're probably not going to care. But if you just have it plugged in with no network cable and their internet's going through their regular network cable and they just got a blinking adapter on the back with nothing plugged in, they're going to think something's up with that possibly. So,
Oh yeah, if you ever choose to leave it in an environment, plug it in both ends of it. Okay, the USB needs to be plugged in and the Ethernet for the very reason that Brantley just mentioned.
well, and see, that's where I was saying too that you might need to know a little bit more about your environment because, especially on corporate networks and domains and things like that, they're expecting to get a certain IP on the computer. And essentially, what this is going to do is whatever IP would normally go to that LAN cable and then to the computer ends up getting assigned to the Ethernet 1 port of the LAN turtle. And then the computer gets assigned an IP of the Ethernet 0 port, which is that 172.16.84 regular one. But if their computer is set to, say, use a static IP, that's going to mess things all kinds up. And if
Yeah,
they're
that's
seeing
true.
that traffic coming through differently, it's going to be different.
And you'd need to know the environment for the type of attack. I mean, there's types of attacks you can do that don't really require that it be plugged into, to a PC. There are types of attacks where you want it to be like maybe on a printer or something like that.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's one of the nice things about it is that if you're doing this attack, you would need it plugged into a PC. And yeah, Glenn, you're right. Majority of users don't look behind their computers, but it's a risk case kind of scenario there, and you're more likely to have them doing that, especially if things are acting funny, which is a possibility with this attack. So that could be the issue there. But that was the other side of it that I really like about LAN Turtle is the Ethernet port can be plugged in, and you can just have it plugged into a USB to AC adapter and give it power that way, and it can connect to the network, or you can have it on a battery pack just plugged into a network port somewhere random. Man, there was a hotel I was walking in, and we were going down the stairs, and there's just a LAN port sitting on the frickin' wall in the stairwell. No security cameras in the stairwell, just this LAN port ready to be plugged into. All I needed was a network cable and
In
a
the
system.
stairwell?
And I could have connected, and you know how many people use the stairs? Not many at all. So I could have just plugged up there and been there and ready.
That sounds something like what the Aaron Schwartz story. You remember it was like a broom closet or something when he found the LAN port and hooked up to it.
Yeah, and he was in a broom closet in the basement at MIT or something like that, I believe it was, or the building next to MIT possibly. Freudian slip with the loser users. But yeah, I mean it's insane where some of these things could be found and taken advantage of. And honestly, if I was sitting in a stairwell and just had my computer hooked up to the LAN port there, people would just look at me funny and probably laugh as they walked by. They wouldn't question what I was doing or report to hotel employees that I was in there doing anything connected there. And they probably sure as heck wouldn't touch anything that's dangling off of there from a LAN cable. So I don't know. It's interesting the places you can find to put these kind of things. So. But Michael, I do like that. Like I was saying, this is kind of a full system that you can go in and configure how you want it to be. Like you had said, it has to pull internet from the Ethernet port. You can actually go in and configure it so that it's actually bridging the other port to pull internet from. And I haven't tested.
But that kind of I want to still be able to access. Yeah, I don't want to set it up that way. But there's a reason it's set up this way.
But you could, and
you could.
If you're going to do it like what you were trying to do, where you're just going to leave it without having a network cable plugged in, have it grab passwords over a prolonged period of time, if you have enough access to that system, you can plug it in, set up internet connection sharing real quick, and then it'll have internet that way.
Yeah, good point. I guess I could look into that.
Because then it could be reversing all the SSH tunneling, all that stuff out through the internet connection sharing. The MAC address for the card would be same, ports would be the same. It would just be sharing connection. You just have to have access to an admin account to set it up that way when it first started.
Okay.
And that's the other side of it too, is when you plug this in, like Michael said, if it hasn't been plugged in before, normally it's going to try to download drivers from Windows updates. That's going to take a bit of time. Then it has to boot up, actually. That's going to take a bit of time. Then it has to dole out the DHCP address. That's going to take a bit of time. And then Responder starts working and starts grabbing stuff. So those could be, any of those bits could be where we're seeing our timing issue occur and possibly come out from that. But that's kind of where I was getting stuff playing around and working with the original attack, is I was going in and editing responder to change how it was functioning so that it would save stuff to the root folder instead of the responder folder, which was linked to the temp folder, which got deleted every time or something like that. So I would say nanoing and looking at the code that you get for those is probably one of the nicest things about it, is that you can go in and edit it and change it. So I don't see anything wrong with that code and why it shouldn't be working just like the responder one is. But
So it's never so I take by this what I'm gathering is that it's basically waiting for those logs to be populated into whatever, I guess CTC turtle responder whatever, and then it copies them, and then it and then it's done, and then it sets the light, right? So it's basically doing that while true, that forever loop there. It's that's where it's caught up, and that's why the light remains blinking. And so the responder itself is not working, it would appear, or is not producing the desired results, or I'm not waiting long enough, or Microsoft put out an update recently that somehow changed this.
That's definitely not the case. Well, the other side too is, remember in responder we had to go in and configure it and add some of those settings in for it to work for us.
I know, I went back in and tried that. Remember? I mean, you're talking about what we did the first time, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried that.
We had to tell it to do certain things, and I know that's what they tack on the commands at the end there, like the -I, brlan, and W and R and D and P, but I think we had chosen some different ones for us to get it to work. Like we said, number 5, which was use 1, 2, and 4, or something like that.
Okay, so all right, let's try this out real quick. So I need to go to, oh, what did I do? You know what I did? I removed the, oh, that's not good. I removed the module manager.
Yeah, you shouldn't have done that. This is why they make it so easy to reflash your firmware. Michael's going to be looking at reflashing his firmware.
Let me switch the scene back. Let me go ahead and do that. Let me go ahead and do that. There we go, folks. You can see us again. So I'll be, the procedure is as follows. You take off the sticker that's now mostly mutilated to begin with. We pull out a tiny Phillips screwdriver from a eyeglass repair set, typically. And once you have that in your hand, you unscrew those 2 little screws, being very careful not to drop them because they are really tiny. And I'll see if I can actually show you what the inside of this looks like. So once you take the screws off, this is the normal sticker that's on there. It's now all destroyed. And these little tiny screws go in those holes there, these 2 holes. And once you remove the back, you see the innards here. The only thing important for my purposes right now is this little button beneath my index finger. And I'm going to hold that in while I insert it, and then count to, well, 3 seconds it's supposed to be, but 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and 5. And then let go of the button, and it's supposed to wait, I don't know, something like 30 seconds for it to come back. At this point, I am going to assign the interface to 1.2, 192.168.1.2.
Glenn, that's correct about the paper clips, and I noticed your comment about the Wireshark, and that's definitely an awesome thing to do and check out what's coming across on your internet. I would actually like to know some of the filters you put on there. If you have a little write-up you could do on that, or paste bin or something for some of the filters that you have as a juicy bunch of filters. I'd be interested in seeing that. I haven't played a lot with Wireshark myself, so always good stuff to learn there.
So I am assigning that IP address. What did I say? 1.2?
Yep.
Now at this point, I should be able to go to a web browser and go to 192.168.1.1. And oh, this is such. I'd love to capture this screen, but it's a cool little blue web page with LAN Turtle, and they misspelled LAN Turtle. Did you notice that?
Did they really? No, show that screen off.
Okay, yeah. Let's see what I can do with the scene again. Scene 3. Let me delete what's there. Add, and where's that window? Okay, put that here and add. Drum roll, please. Can you see it now?
Waiting for the stream to catch up. Yep, we got a. He certainly did.
So at this point, I am going to browse for my file.
Turletto.
And now we're flashing, doing a factory reset and placing new firmware onto it. In order to connect back, don't forget to reset the IP address of the interface back to DHCP, or else you won't be able to connect back to it after this completes. Please also don't remove the LAN Turtle from your computer while this is happening. This process took a lot longer than I actually had initially expected it to, and I started to get distracted from it, and was tempted to just pull it out after I thought enough time had passed. So don't do that.
Well, even if you do that, you should be able to.
To do the recovery again? Yeah, probably, but I don't like to push it.
Hmm.
But right, wouldn't you say this is a little bit longer than you for most? Is the firmware that big?
I mean, it definitely is a little bit longer than a router firmware load, maybe, but
It's a little less than 16 megs. I don't know.
I think it's about the same.
Yeah, I think
But
it's about the same.
you got to remember too, most router firmware is like 3 to 8 megs, maybe.
There may be some additional stuff going on here, more than just the actual copying of it. I don't know. Okay, so we're done with that. Switch back here, and now do I actually have to turn it off or anything? It kind of implies that I have to turn it off, but I'm tempted thinking to.
I believe you do. I want to say the recovery mode is kind of like a DFU mode.
Yeah, you're right. I will have to do that. So go ahead and stick it back in. Oh, I didn't reconfigure the IP. Very important. And now we should be able to, should pull a, oh yeah, there it goes. It's booting. There we go. And at this point, I should actually be able to connect. All right. And it tells me about the new certificate, and I'm able to connect. Every time you reset this, you're going to get that default certificate warning. And the default password is, what is it, shells? SH3LLZ?
Yeah.
Okay.
You should
So,
switch your scene back if you have it loaded still.
yeah, doing it. Right, something like that. All right, so now we're from scratch. If you want to give this a shot, I'm going to go to, got to plug in the Ethernet so I can get the downloaded get the modules downloaded. So I don't need to do anything under config. I'm just going to go to modules, module manager, configure, directory, yes. So we're just going to select the QuickCreds, right? Is that your theory?
Well, no, you'd already done that one, so I'm
We can try it
thinking.
again. I mean, you know, it's possible.
So here's what I'm thinking maybe is if you do the QuickCreds and the responder one and take out and like I'm saying use the QuickCreds to manage the folders and the copying of logs and use the responder to actually run the responder and use the RC local command. So go ahead and get the QuickCreds and the responder and configure them both and configure the QuickCreds because that just downloads and installs stuff. Then configure the responder, and we're going to go through and set some of the settings in that one. And this is kind of what I love about the way the openness of this is that you can kind of use it as a leap pad. So you can take things and then adjust it and work with it how you want to go with it. So then once you get those dependencies and everything installed, that's all you have to do and configure under that, I believe. So just make sure that that module is enabled to auto boot and then go in and do the configure for the responder.
Not really clear that's going to produce a different result, but all right, try.
Well, I don't think you're clear on what I'm saying we're going to do, but I'll explain it a little bit more once we get to that point.
Okay, well, that's, and we want to enable it, and that should be it. Actually, oh, you know what, since I can run it on demand, let me just give it a quick shot.
Okay. I don't know if you want to do that with your machine.
I'm just not going to look at the hat. I'm just going to see if it's there.
Okay.
So go to the loot folder. Oops, type. This should have been, yeah. So same result. Okay, modules. Responder.
Now, when you were in the QuickCreds and you told it to start, did it say that it grabbed creds or what we were expecting from having looked at that stuff?
So yeah, I looked at this before. I'm assuming it's the same, but let's double check that. Yeah, it's just starting attack and never gets beyond that.
Well, the starting attack is where it's waiting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's waiting to grab something. So you have to sit at that starting attack until it actually grabs something, and then it will say.
Yeah, I got it, but it's supposed to, the initial test showed, less than 20 seconds to get that, and you got to believe I've left it plugged in longer than that.
But it also depends on when Windows decides to check those things too. So, and that was interesting to me as I looked into the NTML stuff and tried to see more about it, and I didn't find a lot about it from Microsoft out there. Like, there's not a lot of details on how they use that, why it's used, what it's used for, how the hashing stuff looks even. So that was kind of interesting to me. But
yeah, they don't document a lot of that. But
so
at this point, Turtle again.
Go back into Turtle and go into the configure of the responder there.
I remember. So the mode I thought was the most relevant, but what do you want to select this too?
I think we did. So let's go through the ones that we did for each. Yeah, we wanted to target the BL LAN or BR LAN, and then the log we wanted to say it went to the temp folder, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Now, none of this should be inconsistent with the other thing because it's just copying them from the temp folder and putting them.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So
and the mode we did.
I'm waiting for the screen to catch up so I can tell you exactly which one.
4, 5, and 6.
Yeah, I believe we did 4, 5, and 6. And I believe the 5 is the one that was really being looked at there, but I think the 4, 5, and 6 gives you a little bit more of the option. So.
Well, yeah, not all the attacks are going to be relevant if depending upon what you have that set as. In other words, there might be issues capturing certain. Remember, I said the FTP credentials and share credentials and things, but
yeah. So then do the back, and I think you have to do enable to make sure it's got everything it needs the way it wants it.
Mm-hmm.
And
do we need to start it?
Try starting it just to make sure if that's what forced it to go through and do things.
Okay.
All right, now.
Oh, interesting. Oh, wait a second. Hold on. That's weird because the light's off. That's probably because. Okay, now what did you want to do? Reboot? Try it? Test it?
No, what I want to do is let's go back into the Etsy Turtle module nano QuickCreds.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's what it's called. And then
You want to go down to the line that starts responder.
well, you want to go down to the function start, and we want to comment out. We'll leave the create in the directory. Comment out the stop DNS mask, and comment out the execute attack.
Mm-hmm.
Leave that stuff. Because that just links it from there. Is that right? Yes, so that should link it there like that's expecting. And then that will go fine, and then finished is fine, and stop is fine, and status is fine. So yeah, we got those two commented out, and add those two to the RC local.
All right. So nano rc.local, and let me copy those lines 1 second. So if you could just look at the screen real quick and tell me if this is the right line. DNS mess stop, and then a spin screen, and then all this stuff.
Hold on, let me double check with the original site. And this is part of us not knowing exactly what these things are doing, just kind of trying to figure it out by playing with them. But I think this is supposed to be running the responder without it depending on the module responder, which is why he never said he had to enable the responder module. But let me double check what you got there. DSM. Responder bash. C overlay responder, Python responder, and go to the end. LAN FWDF. Yep, so that all looks right. So go ahead and save that. And let me just double check the responder one. Everything looks okay there. All right, so now turn it off. You can go back to the regular screen scene. You can unplug the LAN Turtle and try plugging into your laptop and keep an eye on the LEDs and see what happens.
Okay, now this laptop currently is logged in. Should it be at a lock screen? Any condition on that?
It doesn't matter to me. Let's do the lock screen just to see if it will do it from there.
Okay, initiating lock, and got the lock screen, and I'm plugging it in. So, now this laptop is slow, so I want to give this at least 30 seconds, if not a full minute, to see what, if anything, may happen. So right now I'm doing, it looks like it's doing the regular boot up.
Okay.
So the slow blink.
Now we didn't comment that out, so that should still be the same way that the QuickCreds was doing it, where it stopped that blinking pattern for that.
So I'm getting the flash blinking, meaning this should have reached at least the starting responder or whatever.
Okay. And then are the lights supposed to go out when it?
Yeah, the lights are supposed to. Well, it's supposed to go solid rather.
Okay. Well, let's give it a little bit and see what happens there. And we're over our time limit, so if this doesn't work, we'll just have you log in and see if it pulls it then, and then we'll go back. But essentially what we're doing here is we've taken the way that we had it working before, because our previous episode that we did, it was working. It was grabbing credentials more often than not. And then we took the QuickCreds one that they came out with, and we're just using that to create our log folders and
really the only issue we had in the first one was getting the logs saved appropriately. Really, the credential capturing and stuff wasn't our problem in that circumstance. It's kind of funny how much of a difference we're having this time around. And really, the only reason for doing the QuickCreds thing is because it automatically did the log capturing. It copied them. But maybe I'm feeling I could have just gone back and made that addition without doing that.
Well, I tried getting into that on the responder one and trying to edit the responder module files to go to the places I wanted, and I was able to get it to root, but I wasn't able to do what Darren had done there with creating the new folder for that session kind of thing. So that's why I would be kind of excited to see it work that way, because it is a little bit more complicated than just that setup.
So have we given enough time? Should I check it?
Go ahead and log in on that system just to see it, because I see it's still blinking there. So
it is definitely still blinking. You can see that?
Yeah, just barely, but.
Okay, logged in.
Maybe try going to a Windows share. Did you have this already connected to your network?
No, I mean, I guess I can see if it'll browse it.
Like going through your other network connection?
Yeah, okay, so yeah, no, it's not same result. I've got the 1 and 2 folders, but they're empty.
But no, can you browse your network? Because it still hasn't grabbed any creds. That's why it's blinking.
I gotcha. Okay. So
like, you have it hooked up to your wireless, and can you browse your main computer's folder? And
some problems getting to it. Hold on. Is it because the LAN Turtle's there?
Well, and that the other side of that too is to see, did your LAN Turtle pull a DHCP address, and all that looks kosher?
Yeah, 84201.
Okay.
Oh yeah, why is my wireless showing as connected secured? Let me see if I can do this.
Cause yeah, and that's what I was saying, is it was kind of confusing that I couldn't find any documentation really about the NTL VM stuff and how that was set up or supposed to work with Microsoft, or when and why they did that stuff. or even what the hashing and things like that came out as.
Okay, I got to another computer on my network that was a Linux share, but let me try.
And maybe this is what Responder is supposed to be doing, is poisoning your connection. I believe that's what it's supposed to be doing.
Well, yeah. Okay, so now it's asking me for credentials browsing to my network.
Okay.
You want me to put some credentials in there?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm logged in and I can. The light's still blinking now. Nothing.
And I can still see the light blinking too, so. Well, and maybe it's something with how the credentials is setting up the link and the responder sets up the link. Like I said, there's the responder module has a lot of code in it, and it's a lot more complicated than what the QuickCreds one was. So I tried playing around with it myself and trying to get it so that I could create my own folders and have it stored to the root folder, which wasn't linked. And that's where I start getting confused. And maybe that's the other side of it. Maybe the links are getting mixed up or confused, and I'm not quite sure how symbolic links work in Linux anyway. Symbolic links in general on file systems are kind of confusing. So there's a number of things there, and I think that it really just takes you need to understand what both of those modules do, and you could probably set it up so that they both did it.
I feel like I need to spend another month, hammering away and doing some testing. There's a whole lot of factors that could be going on here, Microsoft accounts, versus local accounts. There could be, I don't know. That didn't seem to be an issue for us last time, though, right? We didn't.
Yeah, we got Windows 10 accounts.
Yeah.
On both local and Microsoft ones.
Yeah, that's right. I pulled mine as well as the laptop I did. Well, anyway, yeah, there's a lot of little details. I need to go through that responder line by line. Yeah, maybe both of us. And we'll try it again at some point. It's possible they may have some updates out for it as well, so we'll revisit it and see if anything improves with that. But the point is awareness. You guys need to be aware of this type of attack and protect your network for it. And if you have a corporate Windows Active Directory network, you need to make sure that you have group policy in place to prevent driver installation, from automatically occurring. And that, I think, is probably the only way to mitigate this type of attack.
Yeah. So definitely good stuff, and I'm glad that we spent the time on that and played around with it. Like I said, I kind of like it not working because that gives us something to look into and play around with more and figure out more about it and understand more about it.
It's always an opportunity to learn. Yes, I'll give you that.
Yeah. And that's where I feel like we gain the most, is learning more about what these things can do and how they work and operate. And that'll be where you can find out more about how to protect yourself from it. So
maybe we'll contribute to modules at that point instead of just waiting for Mubix or anybody else to create one.
Exactly. Mubix.
Sorry.
And Nick, it's Etsy because ETC, you phonetically pronounce it et and then C, so Etsy.
If you phonetically pronounce it, you're dumb.
Well, that's just like your opinion, man. So, but yeah, go ahead.
We were talking about these the other week with it blocking the blue light. Just wanted to say 3 times now this week I've not used them while working because I've had, a lot of stuff to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to stay up because, you know me, it's rough for me to stay up past 9 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Several times this week, other than Saturday night when I had a few drinks, and even then was late. The first time was I stayed up until about 3:30 before I made myself break away, and then still took me half an hour to go to sleep after that. And last night is why I was not in the start of the show today. I was up till 3 again, and probably took me an hour to get to sleep.
So it's kind of like you can and maybe it's because you're used to wearing them and you've conditioned your eyes to not have the blue light, but now you can kind of use it like as your own caffeine boost without having to have caffeine.
It's like that. If I don't wear these all day, I mean, I'm charged. I was just charged. My mind would not stop last night. I could not go to sleep even when I did finally go, oh, it's 3 in the morning. Couldn't do it.
Yeah. It's kind of like Cyclops, so like you get like a superpower when you take them off. You can stay awake forever.
Wow.
That's interesting, though. Very interesting.
Just like several it's like it's very rare that I do that, and it's also very rare that I can stay awake past 9 or 10 either.
Yeah, definitely is. All right, well, let's go ahead and wrap up today. Unless anybody had anything else they wanted to shout out.
No. But thanks everyone for listening to that, and I'm sorry it wasn't more fruitful, but I think, like I said, I think the benefit from this episode was more of the knowledge and information and background.
I felt it was fruitful. I liked what we went over, so.
Yeah, I wanted to go to hash. You know what I mean? It felt a lot more fulfilling the original time when we were able to actually pull something and decode it. And I just want to give a shout out to that HashCat thing again, and to the Hack 5 crew for the LAN Turtle, and to all of our listeners and Glenn and everyone in the chat, or get your friends to come on Mondays a little bit more. We have a slow Monday in the chat, and I'd love to see the same banter we have later in the week there on the earlier days. So
I like us being able to focus at least one day a week on something. So
yeah, I do too. I do too. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you tomorrow at 10, I guess, right?
10 a.m. Yes, we will.
Wow, another start to another week. Hopefully, a good one for everyone.
All right, we'll see you later. Take us on.